Ancient Egypt was a civilization where death was not seen as an ending, but as a transformation into another form of existence. This belief shaped every part of Egyptian life, and nowhere is it more clearly visible than in the practice of mummification. For ancient Egyptians, preserving the human body was essential, because they believed that the soul could not survive in the afterlife without a recognizable physical form. Egyptians believed that a human being was made up of several spiritual elements, including the Ka, the Ba, and the Ak. The Ka was the life force that required food and offerings after death. The Ba represented personality and movement between worlds, and the Ak was the immortal spirit formed after successful judgment. For these parts to reunite every night in the afterlife, the body had to remain intact. If the body decayed, the soul would lose its anchor and eternal life would fail. Long before embalmers existed, Egyptians noticed that bodies buried directly in the hot, dry desert sand were naturally preserved. The lack of moisture prevented decay, leaving skin, hair, and facial features surprisingly intact. This natural preservation convinced Egyptians that the body could survive death under the right conditions. Over time, as religious beliefs became more structured, this accidental preservation turned into a deliberate and sacred process. When a person died, their body was taken to a purification tent near the Nile, known as the IBW. Here, priests washed the body with water from the Nile, symbolically cleansing it and preparing it for transformation. From this moment, the body was considered sacred, no longer just human remains, but a vessel meant for eternity. Embalmers were skilled specialists who worked under priestly supervision. During the process, they often wore masks of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification and protector of the dead. This symbolized that the god himself was guiding the preservation process, not ordinary humans. Ancient Egyptians did not believe the brain was important. Instead, they believed the heart was the center of intelligence, memory, and emotion. The brain was therefore removed through the nose, using a long metal hook. The thin bone separating the nasal cavity and the skull was broken, and the brain was extracted in pieces or liquefied and drained out. Extreme care was taken to avoid damaging the face, because facial recognition was crucial for the soul in the afterlife. The next step was the removal of internal organs, which caused decay. An incision was made on the left side of the abdomen using a sharp obsidian blade. Through this opening, the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines were removed. These organs were treated separately and preserved, not destroyed. Each organ was dried using natron and placed into special containers known as canopic jars. The protection of organs was tied directly to Egyptian gods. Each canopic jar was guarded by one of the 4 sons of Horus. Imseti protected the liver. Hapi guarded the lungs, Duamutef watched over the stomach, and Kebes-Nuf protected the intestines. This ensured that every vital part of the body was spiritually defended in the afterlife. The heart was treated differently from all other organs. In most cases, the heart was left inside the body. Egyptians believed that during the final judgment, the heart would be weighed against the feather of Mat, the symbol of truth and justice. If the heart was heavier than the feather, the soul would be destroyed. Removing the heart would mean losing identity and memory, so it was preserved within the chest. After organ removal, the body cavity was carefully cleaned and filled. Embalmers rinsed the inside of the body with palm, wine, and aromatic oils to prevent bacterial growth. The cavity was then filled with linen, resin, sawdust, or mud to maintain the body's shape and prevent collapse during drying. The most critical stage of mummification was dehydration using natron. Natron was a naturally occurring salt mixture found in Egypt. The body was completely covered in natron and left for approximately 40 days. During this time, all moisture was drawn out, stopping decay entirely. The body shrank, darkened, and hardened, transforming into a preserved form capable of lasting thousands of years. After dehydration, restoration and protection began. The dried body was washed again and coated with oils, resins, and perfumes. These substances softened the skin, prevented cracking, and added fragrance. This step also restored a lifelike appearance, ensuring the body remained recognizable. The wrapping process was both physical and spiritual. Linen strips were wrapped around the body, starting with fingers and toes, then limbs, and finally the torso and head. Between layers, protective amulets were placed. Each amulet had a purpose, protecting the heart, guarding against evil, ensuring rebirth, or granting strength in the afterlife. Religious spells were essential during wrapping. As the linen layers were applied, priests recited sacred texts that would later become part of the Book of the Dead. These spells guided the soul through the dangers of the underworld and ensured safe passage into eternal life. Social status directly affected the quality of mummification. Pharaohs and nobles received the most advanced preservation, including gold masks, elaborate coffins, and hundreds of meters of linen. Common people were also mummified, but with simpler techniques. Poor Egyptians often did not have their organs removed and used shorter drying periods, yet the belief behind the process remained the same. Animal mummification was another important practice. Cats, birds, crocodiles, bulls, and other animals were mummified as sacred offerings to the gods. Some animals were beloved pets meant to accompany their owners in the afterlife, while others were raised specifically for ritual sacrifice. Millions of animal mummies have been discovered, revealing the massive scale of religious devotion. Mummification techniques evolved over time. During the Middle and New Kingdom periods, embalmers perfected their skills. Facial features were restored with resin, nails were tied or capped, and wigs were added. Royal mummies achieved an astonishing level of preservation, with some remaining recognizable after more than 3,000 years. The decline of mummification came with cultural change, foreign invasions, economic decline, and the spread of Christianity, and later, Islam slowly replaced ancient Egyptian religious beliefs. As the belief in bodily resurrection faded, mummification disappeared. However, the preserved bodies remained behind as silent witnesses to an ancient worldview. Modern science has confirmed the effectiveness of Egyptian methods, CT scans, DNA analysis, and chemical testing reveal that embalmers had a practical understanding of anatomy and preservation far ahead of their time. What once seemed mystical is now understood as a sophisticated blend of observation, chemistry, and ritual knowledge. Ultimately, mummification was not about death, but about eternity. Ancient Egyptians preserved the body to preserve identity, memory, and existence itself. Through mummification, they believed they could overcome decay, chaos, and oblivion. Their legacy survives not only in monuments and hieroglyphs, but in the preserved human bodies that continue to tell the story of a civilization that refused to let death be the end.